I got my first guitar Christmas morning. I had asked for a bass guitar, but I think my mom thought that meant like a bass level guitar. I didn't say anything. I was just excited to have something. I figured, all right, I'll play guitar instead. It's fine. I grew up with a whole family of car people, mechanics and race car drivers, and so taking stuff apart and making it your own was a big part of my life. Once I figured out that I could take apart my little Stratocaster and put it back together, I realized I was, pretty much hooked, and that was even before really the music hit me too. So I feel like there was a life before guitar, and I remember parts of it, but really it's just been my life ever since, and I'm fully addicted. I followed a girl I had a crush on up to LA, and that was kind of all it was. I had played guitars in bands around town, not any particularly good ones, but I loved getting to play guitar with everybody and anybody I could. I quickly fell into doing TV show, like kind of background music stuff for like a lot of Discovery Channel shows like Swamp Pond and Pawn Stars or whatever. Anything that paid. I think we got like $200 every couple weeks, which was pretty good. My very first gig that I did live playing for an artist, I made $34, and it was at Rusty's Surf Shack on the Santa Monica Pier. I think that's what it was called. I mean, I put all that money into my gas tank, but I still drove home feeling like the king of the fucking world. I thought it was I've profited. I've made money from my guitar, and it was the best feeling. And then the dream was just like to keep doing that and seeing you can get $35 or $40, and you just keep working at it and following the no plan B, no eggs in any other basket. Like, it has to be guitar, and it has to be forever, and there's no other. I learned how to survive off of very little, but loved every minute of it. I'd proven everybody wrong, even if I don't even know if those people were real, but in my head it was like the whole world, and whoever they were that thought I couldn't amount to anything. Now I'm doing everything I could ever want, and I still am. I love my job, and I love getting to wake up and just play more guitar. I'm proud of like my first sessions playing on those TV shows. Then I kind of fell into like the pop scene. Not so proud of that, but that's why I had to get out of it. It was miserable. It was breaking my heart. I started to realize that I had other friends in LA, and there were other musicians who wanted those kinds of gigs. If you're taking a gig that isn't making you happy, you're also taking a gig from someone else that it would make happy, so what are you really doing? There's been a couple times that I quit and went back to zero and was struggling again and had to kind of work my way back up into a shape or a place or direction that felt more right. And one of those was like a year of not touring and figuring out ways to make money again in LA on guitar until I met Jackson Browne. Jackson was a hero of mine who I grew up listening to, and he's had every great guitar player in his band, from Jesse Davis, David Lindley. Once I started hanging with Jackson, and then he asked me to be in the band, that was a dream come true, and also like a nightmare come true, because those are big shoes to fill, and I wanted to do a good job. So I've been touring with Jackson now since I was like 27 is when I started, and now I'm 34. Between me and Val McCallum, like we both take turns, and it's been an amazing ride, and I learned a lot about music from Jackson and from Greg Lees and from that whole band, Bob Glob, Fritz. Those guys are all legends, and they really showed me a lot as far as what real music on a real stage, playing real songs, My name is Mason Stoops, and I'm a producer, and I'm a studio guitar player, session musician. I play guitar on people's records, and sometimes I help them make them too. That's my dog, Apple.
So I told him about these guitars months ago, and I was so compelled to, but this is how it goes with Mason. He's family. Mason is a brother. I'll do anything for him. But he's in California. He's on tour. He is like the busiest guy ever. And I knew that it'd probably be a minute till we could get these in his hands, which means I can't sell them. I've got a bunch of money tied up into them. But it was like this, he needs to know about these. So we've been talking about these guitars for like 3 months. I've had hold signs on these guitars in the showcase for months, and people are like, what's up with the 53 Tele? I don't know if it's sold. He's gonna be the one to tell me if I'm crazy or not, but the idea is to get these guitars in his hands and do anything at all costs, work any magic we can, if he loves these, to make them happen. Mason has like the most gear ever. The guy has like the coolest collection. So there's options, right? If he's just gonna buy it, if he wants to trade some stuff. So the idea is to, hey, do you love these first and foremost? We might do this and get down there and one or the other aren't it, and that's fine. These guitars will make somebody very happy. We picked a day before the World Cup to zoom there and show them these guitars first, see if they stick, which honestly, if I know Mason, if I know guitars, I'll be humbled if I'm totally wrong. I know for sure that guitar is going to end up with Mason. I guarantee it, man. And knowing Mason, hell, I've handed him like 25 Blackguards over the years with no intentions of, hey, you wanna buy this today? Just like, check this out, check this out. That's the best. This one could very well scratch the maple board deal for him. It's cool. It's not like this perfect stock guitar, but that's not what he cares about. He's making music, he's making records, and that guitar has something about it that I can't deny, and I love it. So I wanna see if he digs it. And that's a little bit more the question mark. I think it's rad. I hope he gets it. This guitar was made for Mason in 1953. I remember the day that I first met him, and he was just a really groovy kid. We were both kids. I remember that day handing him a 1960 Burst, you know, opening the glass case. It's not like we pulled it out for everybody, but I was like, oh man, I can do this. Dad, is it okay?
The first day I got my driver's license, the first thing I did was get in my car, my mom's car, and drive to Guitar Center on my own. The idea that I can go to Guitar Center now by myself, and I almost died on the freeway because I'd never driven on a freeway before, but I had to get to the promised land, which was the Brea Guitar Center, which I later worked at and was immediately fired from. But at the time, that was the dream, and especially getting to see like real boutique guitar shops and anything that had vintage guitars. And I always had heard and read about this legendary spot up in Seattle. My grandparents had moved up to Whidbey Island, which is just off the coast there up in Seattle. Whidbey Island's not easy to get to, and so Seattle was kind of out of the question, but I begged and I begged and I begged, can we please just make a stop so I could check out this guitar store. And at this point, I had been fully Burst obsessed. You know, I'd never seen one in person. I'd never played one. I couldn't even imagine what it would be like being in the room. It'd be like meeting Elvis and the Beatles and every cool person in history all in one. And I had, you know, the beauty of the Burst book. I would take notes in it late at night in my bed, you know, keeping track of this one has this detail, this has that. I was Burst obsessed and knew that this shop from time to time had them in. And on the day I finally got to go on this family trip, my mom took me. And it was actually the first guitar I played there was a green Harmony, I want to say Bobcat, but I know it's not a Bobcat. Earlier I had been staring in the glass case because there was a 1960 Burst, and it was so cool to wear on it. It wasn't a closet queen. If this was like a played, really ratty, just perfect Burst, and I just was like jaw dropped. Seeing one in person, it looked everything and nothing like what I had expected all at the same time. And even being that close to it behind the glass display case, I probably stood there for 15, 20 minutes, and you know, the guy behind the counter there, I know he saw me, and I was too shy to ask about it, but I think he knew that I was drooling over it. And I went to play this Harmony, and I was playing that for a while. And then out of the corner of my eye, I see the guy from behind the counter go, and he opens up that display case, and he pulls out the Burst, and he just walks over to me, and he hands it to me. And he's just like, dude, you gotta plug this in. Like, hearing you play, like, you're gonna really love this. Never in my life had I experienced someone that's just an unusual thing to do. We all know what that guitar is worth, and I'm a kid, and so many guitar shops I would go into, you know, they don't want you touching anything, they don't really want you playing anything. And suddenly here is this dude handing me a burst, not even to buy it, or he knew I was just a kid, but he was like, you're gonna love this. And it was Trevor. And I cried. I played one note. It was probably like a Knopfler chord, something like that. And I just wept. And it changed my little life right then and there. I had this crazy gouge in the fingerboard around the 3rd or 4th fret from this dude's ring. And I could, like, if I close my eyes, I can still feel that neck, and I would recognize that burst anywhere. Yeah, I'll never forget that moment and what that felt like. I don't know who has it now, but I hope they're playing it. From that point on, Trevor and I kept in touch. We've been friends ever since, and that's probably, what, 10 or 15 years ago, which is a little crazy to think about. 90% of the bursts that I've gotten to play since that moment were, you know, through Trevor and him sharing them with me. So that kind of generosity and that kind of friendship is rare, and I've always been extremely grateful for him and for that moment, and then all the moments since where we've had just the time of our lives together, on top of playing some of the best guitars I've ever heard in my life.
You look great, bro.
You look great.
What's up, bro? How you doing?
Good, all right. Thanks for coming.
Wow.
What's up,
Dude, let me see this shirt. What is this?
Dude, Don, come on, you the legend.
This is so rad.
Yeah, they're tiny.
We have an even smaller one in the other room.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, these
We
are.
started with a small one. I'm gonna let her go now.
Yeah, someone.
Drop those anywhere too.
Dude, it sounds awesome.
They're phenomenal. We recorded them a ton for like amazing recording pianos. Like the role model record was on this piano.
What's up?
This is Apple.
Waiting for this day for months. So when we got it, I mean, dude, it had not been touched. The screws had barely been turned, the tape, and that's all great. Like, you look at it and you're like, wow, like, what a piece of history. But the reason we talked about this whatsoever was just, I plugged it in and was just humbled, man. But yeah, crack the case, check it out.
You've told me so much about. I'm more into the stuff that's been played to death and repaired and whatnot. But when you said this was maybe the best Tele you ever played,
we've talked about 53s too, man. There's something about them.
Wow. Yeah. That's a Telecaster.
And I love, like, it's obviously clean, but it's just got like a couple dings to like let you know,
yeah,
don't be scared, you know?
I was gonna say I rely on those because otherwise I can't tour with them.
I know.
But I need to, all this stuff for me is, I gotta be able to take it everywhere I go and beat it up and not feel too bad about it. So
with cats like you, what are you gonna do? Refret it, you know? I mean, that's it.
Yeah.
Like, do it and never think twice about it.
Can I pick it up?
Dude,
is that crazy?
Pick it up, man. Sit with it for a minute.
Wow. It already.
What's the serial number? I forgot at this point.
Let's find out. 4597. Oh no, 4497. So the 44th week of 1997. Do you know what the dates on the body and neck are for 53?
So the tape on this is June 1st, 1953.
I mean, it's incredible. On my 52, the pickguard's it's got the striations, you know?
Yeah.
That's what Cornwall always talks about. Replicating the striations on an old blackguard because of the lacquer that's on top. This one's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, it's been played, so it's not like it's scary.
I mean, look at the fingerboard. It's been seriously played.
Yeah, it's just, it hasn't been like opening it up, no one had gone through it. So somebody honestly just got this guitar and used it like a guitar for that long. Up until 25 years ago, I'm sure they got a lot more than they paid for it, but.
Yeah. Wow. Did you guys have to do anything to it?
No. No, we put fresh Pacadilla areas on it.
Yeah, I mean, come
The
on.
acoustic test, right?
Yeah, I mean,
See, even mine that's like been oversprayed, refinished. I mean, it's loud when you play it, but there is something different when it just has not been hit.
right. I know my 52's on that rack over there. We could even compare it
Yeah.
unplugged, but it's. I can tell you now, it's such a different vibe. And that's still an amazing guitar. I mean, I've had that
I
guitar
love that guitar,
for
man.
almost 10. It'll be 10 years this year that I've had that 52. And you know, you've put more blackguards in my hands than anybody, and I love that one. It's been a great guitar, but I've still been
Listen to that,
still
dude.
been hunting for the right, the end all be all. But all original pots, original stuff internally, just rewired. This is a 1952 Telecaster that I've had since I was 25 years old. It's been beat to shit. It's completely original other than the finish, and I've had the pickups rewound just to get the most out of it. The bridge pickup, when it came to me, was missing the top piece, and that coil was pretty dead, and the neck pickup was so dark, and so yeah, it's been through the ringer. It's been through all the tours I've been on, Jackson Browne and Lizzie McAlpine, Mumford and Sons. You know, it's a great guitar. Originally, it was in the U.S. It was in Texas, and it had one owner who played the shit out of it, and his son, as a gift to him, a while later decided to paint the whole guitar over the frets and everything with auto primer white as a surprise for his dad, who unfortunately wasn't too keen on the surprise refin. So it then spent the next several decades of its life just laying out in a barn in Texas, which thankfully is very dry where it was, but otherwise it was just exposed to the elements. So ironically, that auto primer that kind of ruined its life also saved its life, because instead of the original finish and the wood getting attacked by, you know, the elements, the auto primer was kind of protecting it. So it's truly a player. You can see, I mean, I have added a lot of dings to it and taken a lot of paint with me, but even before my time, this guitar was really played, and there's a reason. When you hear it, when you play it, you can tell this is a serious player's Telecaster, and it's been good to me, and it taught me a lot in the last 10 years of us being friends. I can't remember how I got word of it, but I called Trevor, and he was so insistent at the time because it was such a good deal for what it was. Trevor PayPal'd me like $1,000 out of his own pocket for a guitar he wasn't even selling. He was just adamant. He was like, "You need a proper blackguard, and pay me back whenever, but like, please buy that Telecaster before someone else does, and it goes, you know, into the wrong hands." I did pay him back, I think. Shit. I'm obsessed with it. I've been obsessed with it. I've gotten to know it intimately, and I would keep it the rest of my life if I could afford 2 Blackguard Teles, but right now I still can just barely afford one. So the idea, everything that I'm still pining for, no pun intended, is, I believe, hiding in that 53 Tele that Trevor's brought down. I think of it like a t-shirt, or I think of it like a screwdriver.
Totally.
Where it's like, it has been perfected to its absolute function, that there really isn't, you could, you know, they can make a t-shirt a V-neck, you can make it a long sleeve, but as far as like, you perfected the thing, there really isn't, you know, there's nowhere else to go. And Leo understood that he was going for the ultimate functional piece that would serve a professional musician in a professional environment. There was nothing else he was interested in. It was just strictly to be a tool. So this is a screwdriver. There's a new iPhone every 6 months, but there will never be, you know, a new Telecaster, you know, and really there won't be a new electric guitar. You know, everything is just a variation of this, and it's special to spend time and get to play one of the earliest ones. You know, sometimes the most original and unique thing you can do on a song is pick up an old 52 Tele and just do the thing that it nails, because there could be an irony in just like, how sick would it be on a song like this, like that Role Model tune, that High Hope song, like that, not the chord, not the rhythm. A lot of the rhythm in that song was this really janky Japanese, late 50s guy tone guitar, not even one of the main ones, like an off-brand one. And that was the main guitar, that and my Gretsch 6120. But when it came time for just those moves, it's like, it has to be a Tele, has to be. That's just the sound. It's like a Saab 2-stroke motor has like 7 working parts in the whole engine. That's crazy. Versus, you know, it's the Telecaster. There's hardly anything left to take away from it before it just goes back to being a piece of wood. But it's all this exact combination of very few things. Even incorporating the bridge plate into like that being one piece is such a engineering, like, oh, like what an incredible idea that the pickup and like it couldn't be simpler. And if you added a single other thing, and if you took away one thing, it would stop being a Telecaster. But at this exact X factor in design and parts, ideas, and execution, it's like one of the most like perfect things we've ever made as like a people. Tele.
Yeah, there's a difference, man.
Yeah, that's just like, I've gotten that to being like a great guitar that happens to be a 52 Tele.
Yeah.
It's still better than 99% of Teles you'll ever play, and that's awesome. But
it is, man. I mean, there's
when you're in the Blackguard territory,
this too, dude. It shows how awesome this guitar is.
The things that this can't do that this does would make it the right person's forever guitar.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Someone who was more of like a mid-gain, or like maybe someone like Sadler would probably rip on this guitar, because it wouldn't be, he's more into like the warmer thing. And to the right person, this is like the holy grail Tele.
Yeah.
But I want the fucking OG, I want the Jimmy Bryan and the Speedy West, I want that shit that all the Bob Wills and the Texas Playboys, like I want that Tele sound, and I've never, it's like been a curse to fucking, when I get hyped and I'm listening to those records again and I go down like a rabbit hole with, you know, the Zeke and Zeb Turners and all the guys who played the Teles, or go down a Roy Buchanan rabbit hole and I get all stoked because I'm like, I have a 52 Tele. I like, oh, let's fucking go. You plug it in, you do that, and it's just like, you're fuck, like it's not, and it's just, it's like having the wrong prescription for your fucking glasses or something, where it's just like, it's, why is it, everything should be here. Is it me? You know? And then it's like you go down the rabbit hole of like, well, is it, you know, Roy Buchanan could play a Squire and sound like Roy Buchanan, so like really you're just like a piece of shit. And so you go to bed telling yourself that it's all you and that you're not, you know, we're sick people who love guitars this much, but it is real. I mean, we just heard that all these micro differences change everything in terms of what I would do in the studio with that versus what I would do in the studio with this. They're completely different worlds. And
yeah, but you're doing like that 5%, 5-10% you're talking about. It's like what Greg was talking. He's like, no, that matters. He's like, when you're doing records and it's permanent, and like you said, even if it's one part in intro, yeah, it's at 5-10%. It cannot be understated.
And in the studio, you're recording into, you know, the desk at some of these studios can be over $1 million. These microphones are 25 to 30 grand each. You know, like this shit is not cheap. If it didn't matter and if it didn't make a difference, like we would all be more stoked for it. Like and I have, and I know of, and I love, and I dream of great records made with the shittiest gear, with the cheapest whatever, and that still has merit. And that's just, we're not saying that one is better than the other. It's just that there is a world, and this stuff. For people who are sick like us that get the fucking bug, like it is everything. And once the first time, before I knew anything, my first guitar amplifier was one of those little Roland micro cubes, and I had like a knockoff Stratocaster, and that was as much as I knew. I was practicing and playing on there, and it wasn't until like a few months into my first guitar teacher's lessons, and he was this old session guy. And I never even thought about sound. I didn't even know that was a thing to consider. I just had my options on my microcube, and I kind of thought that's just how the world worked. Like Jimi Hendrix, I wonder what setting he used on his microcube, you know? Like that's as much as I knew, and it wasn't until this random guitar lesson that he mentioned a tube amplifier, and I was in my head, I was like, what do you mean by that? And he's like, you know, he's like, you haven't plugged like an old Tele into like a real amplifier? And it's just like, no, like this thing has a fucking flanger and chorus built right into it. Like, why would I do that? And he's like, here. And he had like an incredible, just a perfect like twin reverb, like black panel, twin reverb. And he had early 60s Tele that like was kind of beat but played in his main guitar. And he handed it to me, turned the amp on, styled it in just right. He's just like, just play just a nice, easy chord. I didn't have any idea what was about to hit me, and I just did just that. And the way it filled, we know it, but the way that filled the room it was like seeing God or something for the first time. You know, it just was just like, that's real? That you can do that? And he's just like, yeah, all day long, forever. Like, and we have the whole time. Like it rewired my whole system. And I've been chasing all of this and my career and all of this and that, and meeting you and the people that have come into my life from guitar and music. Like, just kind of goes back to that moment and that thing of trying to recreate that feeling. It's just the most fun you can have with a thing. And I love them. And I would love to have this Tele for at least the rest of my life. And I was gonna say, and then probably beat the shit out of it. I struggle with the Stratocaster. It's part of why you've been helping me look for the right one. A Stratocaster to me is the one guitar that reveals itself in every song. And it's also the one guitar that artists that I've worked with who don't know anything about guitars, they know the sound of a Stratocaster, and it's always one of the most requested sounds, that, you know, neck and middle combination, or the middle and bridge. You know, those are such genre-defining and era-defining sounds that so many musicians continue to go back to, and they know it when they hear it. So a Strat, you can't hide behind. Like, it is a Strat in so many forgiving and almost more unforgiving ways. A Telecaster is there to serve, and I feel like a Stratocaster, I haven't had that same relationship. I'm looking for one, though.
We've gone back and forth about this for years. The big split is rosewood boards, maple boards. Rosewood boards, love them. I have 2 of them. I would love a maple board, old lefty. I can't find one. I've played one and it broke my heart. I just went, oh my God.
Because it was great?
It was so good. You are going to take a Strat to a whole different place. I've heard you pick up guitar, like Strats at the shop, and you're playing something I can't even wrap my head around. So to get there in that territory, I felt like you needed a good maple board. And I love, like, slabs just do the thing. I feel like you can get that out of anywhere, but the old school maple board necks, there is just something to it. So this is a 57. It's got a pretty chunky neck. It's not one of the over the top necks.
Is it V-ish at all?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the fuck.
I know, right?
Oh,
like,
man. Dang it.
and it's got the three-way switch still on. But I don't know. I just was having fun with this. 57's like one of the most desirable years. The Fender reissued it a ton. I love this neck. I think V-neck.
The neck is amazing.
Yeah, and I think honestly, going from not going any thinner, I think a fatter neck would suit your playing too, your style. I don't think this is the Strat for you.
Yeah, it's
a cool guitar.
It kind of reminds me of the situation with my 52.
Yeah.
Is it better than 99% of Strats?
It's a cool piece.
Yeah, the big fat necks, like 56, early 57s. I think that's the year to zone in on. They're just, I don't know, they feel more like a block of wood.
I really need a fucking Strat, but it's almost cool. At this point in sessions, I just use whatever Strat is in the studio, and it's always some new thing, sparkle finish with the humbucker, and it's like, great, whatever. And that's more fun. That to me is more fun than having something like this that's almost the thing.
Yeah.
That's the curse I had with the 52.
That's a good point.
Where I'd rather have something objectively worse and make that sound as good as I can than have something.
Go back to this now.
Yeah, come on.
I mean, that's the truth right there, man.
Yeah, those pots are unobtainium. I don't know why people have. I mean, I do know why. I've gone down the rabbit hole with guys who also are nuts about that stuff, and they just can't, like tubes, they can't make pots the way they used to. The material's not. There's a lot of shit they can't do anymore, but that thing where it's like you could be on basically zero.
Yeah.
And you just have a little volume, but it's like still your full frequency signal. I didn't know that was possible. You read all those magazines growing up when you're first getting a guitar, and it's Hendrix and Clapton and everyone Beck talking about like, oh, I don't know, I just turn my amp up all the way and I use the volume knob, and you go, oh, it's fucking that easy, I guess. So you turn your microcube up all the way, and then your new whatever, and everyone is cursed because the second you turn your volume down a little bit on any other guitar, it just goes straight to mud. It just doesn't, you lose everything.
It's insane, man. It's unusable.
I fully believe, and this is like my only conspiracy, and I'm down for this to be on camera, and it's not really a conspiracy, but the failure of components like that and people no longer being able to do the thing their heroes did, where you just turn your volume down and turn up the amp or whatever, is what led to what is now like the pedal market of like, because if your controls are unusable but you're going for these sounds, it's like, well, I need like an amp in a box sound, like I need that, like all the idea of a distortion pedal to sound like we would not have the pedal market we have now if fucking pots and tubes and parts were as good as they are, but now people are trying to emulate sounds that you can no longer get because the shit doesn't exist. So now you have pedals to compensate, and people are like, how do you get the best sound? Like, what's the best Marshall in a box? You know, it has nothing to do with this interaction anymore. There's like chemistry happening in here, you know, with not, you know, that knob and how it interacts with those amps and those tubes going through those speakers. There's so much shit that's factored in that people can't have anymore. And no one would know otherwise because no one has access to good pots. Like when I talk to people about my 52 and I tell them like the best part about it is the pots, they're just like, that can't be true. That's like the most boring thing you could say, but it's like, I swear, like when your guitar has knobs that are actually usable, it changes your entire relationship with every other piece of gear you have.
Let's leave everything here, get
Cool.
dinner. revisit tomorrow. Plus, I want to get your like midnight review.
I know, I got to spend some time with them when no one's looking, and I get really weird and intimate where I'm just, you know, whoa, you know, I got to be that guy with them. As much as you think you know something or that you know a sound, it's a surprise every time, and that's the fun of the whole thing. So thanks so much for coming and sharing me
Let's
these
go break
guitars.
some bread. We'll get back to it tomorrow.
Yeah, Betsy time. We were somewhere in the Midwest, and it was the like deep of winter, and we had definitely had a few to drink, and we used to do this game on tour where someone would put a guitar stand up on stage, and we would see if we could throw it into the guitar stand, and we got really good at it. But one night, I don't remember how, but the next morning we woke up and it was time to leave, and I couldn't find this guitar, and I'm really grateful that I even really looked for it, but it wasn't anywhere on the bus. I left it outside, and it got like completely snowed over. It was buried in like 2 feet of snow, and it just had sat there all night, and we had to dig it out. I've got a photo of it somewhere, and I was like, oh, that's the end of that guitar. Like, there's no way that thing. It was fine. It didn't even go out. It wasn't even out of tune. So this guitar has truly been abused, and it doesn't deserve half of the things I've done to it. But it's stuck by my side, and it's a Tele I will never get rid of, and I can't imagine my life without it, and I can't imagine doing a tour without it near me. I've recorded 1,000 things on it. I've toured with it to 1,000 places, and I'm nowhere near stopping. So it's a really special Tele, and it's the reason that I became obsessed with Telecasters, and why now that 53 is even maybe entering my life. It all kind of goes back to this one guitar. I was gonna say, like, if there were a fire, but there was a fire, and I can confirm the first guitar I grabbed was this Tele. It was just a normal new white Tele that a dude made not far from where I grew up, you know, and it wasn't even particularly a great Tele or anything. It was just the first one I could find that I could almost afford. And we worked out a payment plan, and I just played it for a little while. I took it apart, and I broke the neck pickup immediately, and I felt really bad about it. So then it's been a couple years. This body was the base to my drill press. So all under the pickguard here, there's just huge holes. There's a big hole here, which is part of why I did the Jimmy Page extension. But I needed a Tele, and so I kind of threw this one back together with the body. I had to find a different neck. It was a while after that I met Mike Cornwall, and this kind of became a project guitar for the two of us. He's made a few different necks for it. This one's like old piano wood, and it's got like ivory and ebony for the nut, and he's got a keyboard, piano key, ivory piece for his logo. It's got a crazy, hard, asymmetrical V profile that was kind of an experiment at the time, but we fell in love with it, and it just, the way it changed the sound of the guitar more than any pickup swap or any other crazy idea we'd had. So this is the 52. I've had it for 10 years. It's got at least a few hundred years more to go before it needs its next refret or probably anything else. But the 53 now is what I'm hoping to transition to. I've got it right here behind me. And you can see they've lived slightly different lives, but they are otherwise very much related and cut from very similar cloth. The necks feel very similar, the bodies look similar, the colors pretty much spot on, but two different lives, two different stories, and two incredible guitars that are just barely different enough to drive someone like me absolutely insane. So now this is the 53. It's cleaner than I deserve. It's more original than I deserve. It's very intimidating, but I do feel excited, and I do think I'm ready to take it on. I definitely won't be babying it, but I'm excited to continue to learn it and play it and get to know it. Trevor was right. You know, when he called me, he said this might be the best Telecaster he's ever played. And everything that I suspected I was maybe missing out of my 52, that is a perfect 52. But I've always wanted, there's a little bit of brightness that I was missing, that I knew 53s and beyond kind of nailed. I had chased it quite a bit, and the rewinding of the pickups on the 52, without getting into modifications that would affect its pedigree and what it is, I tried everything I could to get the most out of that guitar. And the reality is, it's perfectly what it is. It's a little warmer and it's a little darker, and that is what makes a 52 so special. You plug the 52 into like a Marshall stack, it's amazing, and that warmth can actually end up benefiting you because you can get more treble out of the amp, and it'll balance out in such a way that to the right person, that is the better choice. For me, it was a great choice. I'm just ready for something different. I'm such a sucker for the original, those early country records with the original guys. I'm obsessed. I wanted to go closer to the actual thing I was hearing, and even though I love my 52 and I love the way it sounds, when I plugged into this 53, it was like I was finally able to reach that thing I've been aching and itching for. There's just a brightness and like a chiminess in this bridge pickup that I've always wanted to have, and it still has that warm original Tele neck pickup. It's just, and I don't want to speak too soon and jinx it, but I do feel like this is the everything I've been looking for, Blackguard. That just happens to be an incredibly wonderful, example for, the reasons that aren't as important to me as a player and as a musician, but that do make it an incredibly valuable and collectible guitar. So I'm grateful for all of its attributes, but mostly it's just the best sounding Telecaster I've ever heard, and for that reason alone, here we are, and I'm taking it home.
It's the evolution of your Telecaster journey, starting with Night Owl.
Yeah.
To a great 52. That's
Phenomenal
gonna be
52.
like a dream guitar for most people, and one that hopefully inspires your playing and music and more of what you do, man.
Yeah, thank you so much again for finding this 53, for calling me when you found it, for holding it and keeping it away from anyone else. I know it took a long time to make this happen, but I'm really grateful for the time and that we've gotten to really hang and
It was a
figure
totally
out.
different type of deal, man. We got to turn some screwdrivers, and it took a while, but we're two old of friends and close buddies to do something transactional. I think that's our goal with guitars, is take that element out of it. And this felt real, man. Got to hang out with Brooks and Apple and the crew and peek into the world of Mason Stoops, and it's been awesome, man. I really appreciate it.
Well, let's do it again sometime.
Cheers, baby.
Do a little bit of slide.
one more.
Cool. All right, buddy. Until next time.
I'm in love with you.
I love you so much. I was gonna say the same.